Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for them springing fresh from the word.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Can everybody hear me okay in the back? If you can't hear me, just raise your hand. I want to start off by sharing a story. It's kind of a story that I like, and some of the guys have heard it before, but it's about this southern landowner who's in the northern part of Alabama, and he grew up in a family that of years and years of wealth. And he had one of the biggest mansions in the area, and the mansion had 10 bedrooms, and it had 5 full baths. And he had lands and gardens that spread out for acres and acres, and he had a fishing pond that was filled with trout, and he lived a great life. But he also lived in a community where everybody was very curious about what the mansion was like. A lot of the townspeople, because he was the only major landowner in the area, used to come up to his gate and look through the gate because they were curious about what was on the inside. And one day this landowner decided that he wanted to show off everything that he had. So what he ended up doing is he ended up sending an invitation out to all the townspeople and said on a particular day that he was going to have a big party, and that he was going to allow them to see everything that he had. And it was his chance to show off about all the things that he had. And so as he prepared for that day, he decided he brought in gardeners who put more flowers in it and put more exotic plants, across his garden. He brought in the greatest chefs from all over the world. He shipped in the best wines from the Tuscany region of Italy. He not only filled the ponds, but he filled them with trophy fish. So when they came onto his property, they were going to be able to fish, but the fish they were going to catch were going to be the best. It was going to be a day that he was really going to be able to show off who he was and the things that he had. The one thing though that he had to come to terms with yet is he had a swimming pool. And he decided, because these people weren't like him, that he didn't want people swimming in the swimming pool, so he didn't know how to discourage them from jumping into the swimming pool. So what he decided to do is he shipped in these alligators 3 weeks before the party. And he wasn't going to feed them, so they'd be hungry. And he was going to put them by the pool to make sure that people stayed out of the pool. So the day came, and everybody showed up at his gate. And everybody was gathered outside, and he opened the gate, and he explained to everybody, today is your day to see everything that I have. And he went on to explain that they're allowed to walk for the many acres, and they could fish and eat and drink, and really enjoy all the things that he had. But he did warn them about the pool, about how they would not allow him in the pool, and about what the potential dangers were if they should decide to jump in the pool. So the day went on, and everybody had a great time, and it got late into the evening, and like a lot of parties, got a little bit out of control, and the landowner kind of tapped his glass and invited everybody in, and he said, hopefully that you've had a great day today, and you've enjoyed your time here, but I have a challenge for you. For any man that's brave enough to jump into this side of the pool and swim to the very other side of the pool, I'll give you 2 choices. I'll give you $1 million, or if you didn't want the $1 million, I'll give you the hand of my daughter for marriage. And as soon as he said that, they heard a huge splash. And everybody ran to an area where they could see the pool, and they could see a man swimming across the pool. And as soon as the man hit the pool, they could see the alligators kind of slide into the pool. And he got about a third of the way across, and the gentleman, the guy who was swimming, ran into this first alligator, and a big fight ensued. And there was a lot of thrashing around, there was a lot of movement in the pool, and the place is going crazy, everybody's cheering. And then sure enough, the guy starts swimming a little bit further. And he gets about 2/3 of the way across the pool, and he's getting closer to the finish line. And he runs into another alligator. This one's a little bit bigger, and the fight's even greater. And all of a sudden you can start to see that it became violent. And you can see blood start to drip into the water, and the water started to turn red. But sure enough, he kept on swimming, the place is going crazy. And they get to about 2/3 of the way, almost to the end, and the largest alligator in the pool shows up. And again, a fight ensues. And then all of a sudden, the gentleman goes under, and the water got completely still. And as The townsmen looked at this pool, all they could see was bloody water and still water. And then all of a sudden, in the far end of the pool, the gentleman pulls himself out and crawls out of the pool and gets to the end, and his townspeople come and they pull him away. And the place is going crazy. And there's so much excitement. And the landowner gets everybody together and says, I'm a man of my word. I've never seen such courage and bravery. And I'm a man of my word. So he says to the gentleman, is your choice to have $1 million? And the gentleman looked up and his face was cut and he was all bloody. And he looked up and he said, I don't want your money. Then the landowner looked at his daughter. And he knew what was going to happen. So he said to the gentleman, then is it your choice to have the hand of my daughter for marriage? And then the gentleman looked up at the landowner and said, I don't want to marry your daughter. And baffled, the landowner said, I don't understand. You took on the challenge and you showed such bravery and courage. And now you don't want money or you don't want to marry my daughter. I'll give you whatever you want. Just tell me what you want. So the gentleman looked up and he's still tired. And he says, I don't want your money and I don't want the hand of your daughter. There's only one thing I want. And the gentleman said, for your bravery, whatever you want, it's yours. And he said, all I want is the name of the guy that pushed me into the pool. That's a joke. Of course, laugh. I know you're sorry. Yeah. I love that story. The reason why I like that story is there's a lot of little lessons in the story. It could be lessons about the dangers of being envious about what people have. It could be the dangers or the lessons you learn about you need to be humble, okay, and not feel like you need to show off in front of people who don't have what you have. There's some lessons about bad decisions. You know, when you're at a party, there's lessons about being careful about who you surround yourself with, right? You don't want to surround yourself by people who are going to push you into the pool, okay, when there's danger. But the lesson that I identify with is, and that I want to talk about, is about the symbolism of the pool and engaging the alligators. Because for me that's important, because as I think about the pool, it's about a journey. It's about standing on it and looking straight ahead and seeing a journey. And if you think about that pool at the beginning, the pool was calm, because nothing was in it. It looked refreshing, it looked inviting, and you could see the goal at the end. All right? At the same time, the alligators kind of represent, adversity, obstacle, challenges that you're going to find along your journey to get what you want to get to where you want to be. And I think we tend to make two mistakes, in my opinion. Is that one, we don't think those alligators and those obstacles exist. We think that everything's always going to be taken care of for us. So when we eventually jump in the pool and we do meet that alligator, we're unprepared to take on the adversity that we just encountered. We're not prepared. I think just as dangerous is those of us who stand on the edge of the pool, look at it, but we don't look at the water or the goal, but we keep looking at the side of the pool to find out where the dangers are. Or is there an alligator under the surface of the water? And then we never jump in the pool. And I think both of those are kind of dangerous places to be. And one of the things I like about chapel talks, and you may not like my story, but just what I like about chapel talks is that when people get up here and kind of share their own experience, okay, that makes you kind of relate to it, because it doesn't matter if you're a teacher or a headmaster, okay, or a coach or a student. We all have these life lessons that I think we can learn from. And for me, my alligator, the time and period I want to talk about in my life, is that when I graduated from college, there was two things that I thought I wanted, that I was looking for. One, like a lot of us, we talk about career goals. I wanted to coach college football. And I realized that coaching college football and getting your foot in the door is very difficult, and a lot of times you have to spend the first several years working a lot of hours for very little pay or no pay. And for some of you guys that don't realize that before coming here, I coached college football for 20 years. So that was something that was important to me that I wanted coming out of college. The other thing is that I'm kind of a romantic. Family's always been important to me, and I wanted to fall in love, I wanted to get married, I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to have a family. Those are the two things that were important to me. And the time I'm going to bring you to is that it was a time in my life that Mrs. Phelps and I were married. We were just about ready to have our first child, and I had just been offered a job at the University of New Hampshire. Right? It was a great program, a scholarship program. I was going to coach the running backs. The two guys I was going to coach had a chance of ending up on the NFL teams. And it looked like I had everything I wanted. I had the family part of it going, and then I had the professional side of it going. What you don't realize is that at that time, the job that I had at the University of New Hampshire paid $6,000 a year. Okay, $6,000 a year. No housing, no food, and most importantly, no benefits. Right? When you're pregnant and you're going to have a child, you got to make sure that you have benefits because it's expensive. So I got lucky. My uncle offered me a job. And the deal was when my uncle offered me a job is he said, in the off season you're going to work, on weekends you're going to work, and on vacations you're going to work for me. And if you put in those hours, you know, you're going to get paid and I'm going to give you benefits. Everything sounds pretty good so far, right? Right? What I did tell you is my uncle is a funeral director. He's probably owns one of, if not the largest funeral home in the state of New Hampshire. So I spent the next 2 years in the off season, vacations, weekends, working for my uncle's funeral home. Not something I ever saw myself doing. I was one of those guys that was called and going in to make removals into nursing homes and homes when somebody passed away. I get called in the middle of the night because there was an accident and somebody was pronounced dead on site, and I was one of the guys that had to go to the accident and remove that individual from the car and bring him back to the funeral home. I was one of those guys that get called by first responders and the medical examiner when somebody drowned in Lake Winnipesaukee, and I had to help remove that person and bring him back to the funeral home. I was that person who had to help with embalming, okay, in preparation, okay, to make sure that we treated everybody with respect and prepared them for them to see their families when the funeral came. I helped with dressing, doing hair, doing makeup. And I remember coming home crying one day. We had just buried a 3-month-old. And at the time, my daughter was 3 months old. I remember coming home and looking at Mrs. Phelps laying next to Bailey, realizing that the little baby that I just buried was the same age as my daughter. Okay, those are the things that I'm talking about. And 2 years later, I applied for it, and I was offered my first full-time coaching job at Hobart College, where I was an offense. I eventually became the offensive coordinator. Just a little side note to the whole thing is that, you know, it ended up actually bringing me here because when I was at Hobart with my first job, that's where Ryan was born. But also there was a young coach who just started off his coaching career there by the name of Bobby Wynn, who we coached football together. And he was my first exposure to Salisbury because I followed the Winds as they moved here. And the point I'm making, and the reason why I brought this stuff up, is that you guys are all on a journey right now. Okay, you're on a journey right now. And there are alligators in your pool, whether you realize it or not. And you don't know what they may look like, and you're not going to know when they're going to come, but there are alligators in your pool. And the reason why I chose to talk about this right now is I think, especially this time of year in the springtime, we spend a lot of time as students, and all of us in this room, complaining about things that we have to do. All right, and it turns into us versus you type approach. And, you know, you don't like the fact that we're talking to you about dressing properly, all right, or being on time, or managing your time, about understanding, okay, the importance of commitments, about understanding how to treat each other, about understanding how to talk to adults, and how to take constructive criticism and use it the right way. We end up getting to that point where we're fighting each other on that, and this isn't about us versus you, okay? The reason why we do those things is we're trying to prepare you for when you hit those alligators in your pool, that you're prepared and you know how to respond to them. That's what the goal is. And we believe in you here. I know my colleagues, and I know Mr. Gilbert, when they accepted you, unless he saw those qualities, that they saw greatness and that you could have a great journey. Everybody having different challenges. But we believe in you. And the journey is going to be tough. You're going to be at times mentally and physically tired. Sometimes you're going to get bounced around a little bit. You're going to get knocked around like the guy in the pool. Sometimes you're going to get bloody. Right? But the point is, guys, is that the journey is yours. And the advice I'm going to give you is be prepared so when you hit those obstacles, you're ready to fight them. But at the same time, okay, don't be afraid to jump in the water and start swimming. Okay, don't be afraid to jump in the water and start swimming. You know, if you're a sixth former, you may be at the end of your Salisbury journey. Okay, put your head down and start swimming hard. Start swimming hard. And if you're a third former, right, and you just you put it in and touching the water, okay, jump in, okay, and get soaking wet, and let's get going. But we believe in it. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you today, and I wish you the best of luck, and let's finish strong this year. Thank you.